This episode is brought to you by Gainesville Podcast Studio and Dynasty Solutions, a video production and live streaming company.
Welcome to another moment with Common Hood. This your host, Simon P., and I'm flanked by two lovely ladies to my left and your right, the beautiful Jahmie.
And on my right here,
and your left, I have Anunaku. And this sister, Jahmie, referred me to a book some moments ago called The Healing Wisdom of Africa, Finding Life Purpose Through Nature, Ritual, and Community by Malidoma Patrice Somé. I don't know if I said that name correctly. But this brother wrote a wonderful book. I really suggest the reading. And we're going to cover a topic today on what has disconnected us from our spiritual foundation. And before I pass it over to both of my sisters that's flanking me from the left and right, the indigenous knowledge was on the quest I was on, wondering how deep it goes, because I'm living in the West in America. We sitting right now in sunny Gainesville, Florida. When I met my sisters to the left and right, they gave me a knowledge piece that had me go on a pursuit. So thank you, Jahmie, for introducing me to this book. And looking at the indigenous ways, I immediately thought, this is what we're taught, that when the colonization of the European situation happened way back in the day, that we were doing blood sacrifices with animals, voodoo, and the magical witchcraft. This book, once again, really opened up a lot of information that dispels a lot of myths and disbeliefs that I've had over the years. I've heard. And then I was introduced, besides the book, to the cosmological wheel of fire. This is a little small example of it. But when I read this book, it seemed like fire and water was just a great fit. So today we're going to talk about the fire and the water, those elements. Jahmie, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to come back with you, my water girl. She thought I was going to go with fire because she holds a community fire every Wednesday.
Yes.
And Porter's community, I believe that is. Mm-hmm. But we're just going to work on the elements today. Mm. On the water, Jahmie. Excuse me, on the fire.
You sure?
I'm positive.
Are you going to start with a question?
On the fire.
On the fire.
I'm just going to let you give a
What's
generalization.
the question? On the fire. Go ahead.
Well, on the fire, before you came into your awareness, how did you define fire from a Western perspective?
A fire was a place of gathering.
Mm-hmm.
That pretty much was it.
Okay, well, how I looked at the fire was totally different. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at it through my lens. Mm-hmm. When I thought of a fire, you're thinking about burning, getting away, and running away. And it's destroying a whole bunch of things along the way. Mm-hmm. So every year we happen to get this LA fire, different fires when the things dry up, and it's portrayed that fire is a bad thing. That it's reckless. Mm-hmm. It's going to devour things. It's going to run it over. Mm-hmm. But in you guys' introduction, as well as this powerful book, what a transformation of thought. Mm-hmm. It was a transformation of thought. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to talk about it for as the rituals. I just want to talk about the cleanliness of it, on what you can comment. And you can piggyback on it any time on the benefits of the fire.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you look at nature, what happens when there's a fire, when there's a forest fire? It burns down. Mm-hmm. But then what does it do to the soil?
Turns it to ash.
Soil
Regenerates. Yeah. Regenerates it. Mm-hmm. The ashes.
But the soil, deep within the soil, it makes it stronger and more fertile. So the elements of all of that. And then, of course, as we learn about the African medicine wheel and the spirituality of Africa, we learn about fire and all of the elements in a very different way.
You got anything you want to
About
mention
fire?
about the fire?
I have to concur with you. Fire's hot. Fire burns is what you learn as a child. And, that's pretty much the relationship. Fire lights a candle. It can light a cigarette. But, later evolving into the fire and really growing and evolving in such a major way, even astrologically, the sun is fire. You know what I mean? It's the biggest ball of fire that offers the most expansive amount of life force, energy, and heat. And, it holds so much power. And so that being a small reflection of the fires that we burn when we light, to me holds the same energy. Also, tying that into the stars are made of fire. You know what I mean? They're fire beings within themselves. So all these lights in the sky, as above, so below, the correspondence of that. So we do fires on the earth to generate the same light and life force and connectedness to a cosmos, to a universe, to bring the universe here, but also to seek warmth and, like my sister said, to gather together. It brings people together because everybody wants warmth. If fire represents illumination. And learning from Elder Malidoma, peace and blessings be upon him, is that there also fire was a gateway to the ancestral realms. And I don't want to take a lot because fire is for her, but I rock under the fire astrology of Aries. So fire is just so innate within my being, which I would later become a keeper of fire, which was a gift. Not even realizing what I was doing that, but just loving to sit with it and to be able to build it and to be creative with it. Like it's not fire is a living ancestor to me because it's a part of who I am. So fire translates in a lot of ways, which I'll let you, because you read the book probably more recent than I did. And so I would say, what else did you recognize about the fire as far as with the emotional bodies, how it ties into humanity?
I'm so glad you asked, because like I said, we're trying to find out how we're disconnected from our spiritual foundation. So one of the things that the book mentioned, since I recently read, that really grabbed my attention was just the fact that controlling the fire within. That if we don't control the fire that's within, it can lead to a whole lot of things.
But what is that fire within us, if I may ask? How does it translate?
I'm going to translate it for you right now. If it's misappropriated, or let's just say if it's misaligned with your balance that I've heard you mention a few times, it can lead to a depression, your mental problems, and your addiction. So I said I wasn't going to mention the ritual, but sometimes one of the rituals is when you have the fire, and you said that you would take things and you throw it in the fire to purge. And I kind of equate it to a Western standard, which would be bring your worries to the altar. So and reading that also made me feel like, wow, is this was studied and how much this was possibly mimicked, which untied another untruth for me. Because I mentioned earlier, when you look at indigenous people have a negative connotation to it. With is it voodoo, is it magicians, all kinds of stuff that you've brought up to here over here that it's not. But then when you're looking at the wheel of the elements.
Because you're talking about the miseducation.
Yes, the miseducation. Yes, the miseducation of it.
Information became indoctrination.
Without experience.
Exactly.
And then the fear of the experience. Because oftentimes when I invite people who are, in knots, they need a safe space, they need a place. And I'm like, oh man, you should come by the fire. Exactly. Well, I'm not, there's this taboo. And I'm like, okay, so let's equate it to the Holy Spirit fire.
Right.
Now you believe in that and you can't even really see that. So let's just create that, because there's really only one fire. And it depends on the intention of the fire keeper and your intentions. You know what I mean? So I get that, because there's so many taboos.
Well, it's like if we were in Pakistan, we'd probably be Muslims. And if you're over in the Western culture, most likely you're going to be Christianity. So I was brought up of knowing the Bible. I was brought up with going to church, and I was taking my family to church. So I get it.
Listen.
So
Listen.
whichever path a brother or sister choose, as long as they're doing right, I really don't care about what an individual, how they choose to go ahead and make that walk.
It should feed your spirit and your soul, though.
Right,
and
right.
it should be an evolution.
Right,
or
right.
The stabilization of
Yes, yes. So wherever you get your balance from. But I just thought this was unique with fixing the misalignment. And being that we're in the West, and the West tends to have a lot of consumerism, a lot of purchasing power, that sometimes we get knocked off of that spiritual foundation. So when I say the fire within, I'm thinking about with all that's going on in the world today, with all that stuff that you hear, is when it's misaligned, I think about the tension that's increased and the destructive part that it could become in. So,
and if you're not taught in church or whatever religion,
right,
if you're not taught to be a critical thinker, then how do you break and sort of figure out what everything that's going on? If your religion, which is based on control, let me just start with 1604. Does anyone know 1604, King James of England decided he was going to revise and create a new version of the Bible.
Right.
Why did he do that? Power and politics. So, if you think about it, and that's the thing, we don't think about things. Sometimes we just take, in this country, we just take it like somebody said it, okay, I believe it. Not that I researched it, it's like trust but verify.
Right.
So if the King James Version went around the world for centuries, and it was based on someone who did a version of it so that's why your God is white. But I'm just saying.
Well,
it's important.
At some point during the awareness, there's a lot of people kind of woke up. Whether you have to read it yourself,
or you had to run away from it.
Yes, or run away from it. So that's what that is when it comes to that. But my concern with the fire, when I say inside, I put all the negative connotations with it for reasons. Because we talked about how the fire spreads. So if there's a classroom of children in this class, and let's just say I tried to take the fire, I got all the negative emotions and I got all the bad habits. Well, if you guys are two angelical beings with me, I may influence you guys and that fire spread through you, and it continues to spread.
But it's going to only spread through the vessel of who we are.
Exactly.
So if we're angelic beings, the fire we bring is a holy fire.
Exactly.
A holy, sacred fire.
Exactly.
Because it's only going to purify and illuminate that which you already.
Yes, but here's the thing about the angelical being. They're staying in their right place. But for those that may be unstable, or may not as focused on their true calling on their being, I can see how it manifests. And that's how I kind of look at society right now.
Okay. With every element. If it is too much of one element, it's out of balance. So when you have a group of students, as you shared, that are in a room and it's just nothing but fire, you might need to bring a little water. Mindset and spirit that you interact with those children. So the elements, they are, yes, water, fire, but that within part is the spirit that you have, that then you can shift, alchemize a situation.
Well, are we, when we embrace a situation, do we have to focus on what's the intention of every situation?
Well, you bring your own intention. You're not responsible for everything and everybody. You have to authorize your own intention. You have to authorize your own day, your own well-being. You have to know your own authority.
That's it.
I'd like to take something back when we were talking about religion and different things like that. Bringing it back to the elements. What I have to say is, and then I want to go in on this because
go ahead and go in.
I feel like even with all the religious constructs, I feel like the indigenous, the original people, whether you want to take it back to a time before time. You know,
Take it back to the time that if I'm African American, which black, however you want to look at it, when I was referred to the book by the beautiful Jahmie here, one of the things I like about the book is it kind of debunks some things that I originally thought. So when I thought of colonization, they say that at one point that, hey, the colonizers came, was fighting, was taking and taking. Then it was like, if we can settle the killing, here's the Bible. So I always wondered if that story was true, well, what were the indigenous people doing? And that's what this book kind of hit me like, that it made me feel like it answered a lot of my misconceptions of what I was heard or taught. I just didn't take the time. It was like, became, instead of King James, it's like this book to me became a secondary Bible. That I believe that the book is written.
That way too. It's
Yeah,
funny. I did.
it is. It's a secondary Bible, but it was in a way that it was offering cures for the world,
Absolutely.
not just whether it's the indigenous people, Christian, Muslims. It was teaching about, hey, this book is about love. Like this is a great book. Like. And it made me go so deep that I was thinking like, wow, this answers all your personal development that's big, all your business coaching, all your mentors. But it was written so cleverly with using the elements.
He is a genius.
So this was geniusly written.
It really was. It tapped into the genius.
Yes, it tapped me that it made me like, like a pressure cooker. I don't know if your mom remember how that pressure cooker used to be. They say don't go in there play with that pressure cooker. But then when it does release, it say whoosh.
Yeah.
That's the kind of oral feeling that I had from completing most of my reading. And we just talking about the first two elements of this will, and I'll let you talk about the other elements on there, since you're gonna explain it. But we're just gonna go back to the first two, because you responsible for water today now. But just tell them like the fire was the first element, and then the water is the second element of the will. So just share what the other elements are. I know there's minerals. I know there's earth.
Right.
And
So on the Dagara wheel, the red is the fire, and it lies in the north direction. The north, in a lot of medicine wheels, it makes sense to be in the north. Because a lot of them believe that that's the realm of the ancestor. So, so that would make, it's beautiful. Then at the south, you have water. In the center, you have earth, because, that is the center, that mother, think about it, of any family.
Not to knock you off on earth, but in the book it mentioned
Identity.
that we pray up to God for us there in heaven, but yet we're buried in. And like earth engulfs you.
Absolutely.
And this is where all the life comes up to give us all kind of benefits that the earth gives us. The earth gives us gold, it gives us silvers, it gives us minerals, it gives us copper. Yes.
Why not?
And that's it for all business owners. I took that from the book as well. Like earth does so many wonderful things that we either don't know or we just take for granted. And consumerism, I wonder how much that's going to hurt us. But when you left on Earth, what's the rest of them?
Oh, okay. To the east, you have nature. To the west, you have mineral. That's not necessarily in that order, but so, the colors represent each. And one of the things we remember when we sat with elders, they used to specific candles, those tall candles that you can get at the dollar store, come in all colors. And sometimes when you want to, pay honor to a specific, when we did work there, it was red candles to the ancestors. White would represent bone, memory, mineral. If anyone is into rituals, this wheel is amazing to create around that, as well as the book would speak of it. So, very powerful wheel.
Very powerful.
Yeah.
Very powerful. Very powerful. This need to be added to everybody's life. That's how this guy wrote this book.
Well, I have a question for you. Where are you at on the cosmology wheel? What's the last number of your birth year?
The last number of my birth year, 0.
So your Earth.
It's the earth.
Right in the
Yes,
center.
I believe Jahmie taught me that one time. I just
Okay.
forgot about that.
Okay.
Earth,
And Jahmie, where you at on the wheel?
I'm mineral.
mineral. Well, earth. They say well, you know, they have the. Now that you saying earth, you know what I'm thinking
look at the
about.
irony.
Now look at it.
Look,
Yeah.
look, she's sitting there, you're sitting here, and then I'm nature.
Wow.
I'm nature. So
We're
this is us
sitting-
right here happening.
Exactly.
You sure you don't want to talk about mineral nature? Because we're here right now for you.
There could be another time for that. There could be another time for that. There could be another time.
I'm kidding.
So earth and mineral is next. How about that? Because we're gonna keep it moving on the fire. We're gonna keep it moving on the water, but we're not quite off the fire because I
The other
think.
thing I want to add to your fire, because you're speaking about internal, what happens when you have a fever? That's an internal
It's an
fire
internal-
that is happening so that it can burn out. Burn out. What?
You're purging out something that's not supposed to be there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Something that is causing dis-ease
Right.
in you.
Right.
So
Right.
that's something that you can all relate to on a very physical standpoint.
I like the health analogy with that.
And once it's done, don't we feel better?
Yes.
Once that fever's gone, boom.
Yes. And what do they encourage you to drink when you have it?
Water.
They
So
do
it's all
encourage
coming
you to drink with
Lots of water.
with water. You know, so there's a lot of benefits to fire that.
And what's interesting
this book.
is this brother told me one time that people, in order to not tap into the emotional body, which is water, and a lot of wheels are tied into emotions, because the grieving, people are really apprehensive about opening that floodgate. Because it's not only their grief, it's the grief of so many. It's the travel over from the continent to all these places on the slave trade. It's a lot of water happening. It's the deep depths of the darkness of the things of the subconscious level that people don't want to look at. And what this brother said is, if you notice, people in addiction and any type of when you drink or overdrink, it dehydrates the body.
Right.
Cigarette smoking dehydrates the body. And that are usually coping mechanisms to keep yourself from dealing
Because of that
or
imbalance.
even
Because
if
of that
alcohol,
imbalance.
and if
Yes.
alcohol takes you into it, it seems like people go through a lot of different emotional changes, but never stay with one long enough to really heal or purge through it. And a lot of those youth used to always express how angry they would get, and they allowed the anger. They were more comfortable with the fire. They said, if I'm not gonna cry, I've learned to dry up my tears because I don't even want to know what that's gonna look like.
Say the tears for water. Say the tears for your water. With that being said, though, look at it from this perspective. And like I said, I'm getting this from the book. So when we talk about fire, it mentioned, if I say the word capitalism, what you think? From capitalism, we live in a Western
Consumerism.
culture. Exactly. So I got mine.
America.
Yes, I got mine. You get yours, right? That's what we thinking. If I say individualism, it kind of.
I don't know if I'm saying that I got mine,
Yes.
you get yours, but when I think about the slave trade and how all this began, it was capitalism that did that.
Yeah, but it's still the same thing going. But we relating to the slave trade, but slave trade of it happening, it was capitalism of trying to acquire assets at that time, and they used
And that's in America. 'Cause
Yes.
now bartering, that's Africa.
right.
It's not about
Right.
we've got to have this massive amount of
Yeah.
money.
Yes.
It's about, what do you need? Let's be in the village. Let's do this, do that. I'm not saying we can't make money,
Right.
but there is an excess.
Right. Well, that's the individual and community. So as an individual, when she said we so macho that I can't admit my insecurities, or I hold that pain in, or man, I ain't supposed to cry.
Vulnerable,
Yeah, that vulnerability. Even I grew up, it was like, hey, don't you cry, and you. Because you the boy, a big kid hit you, and you lose a fight, and growing up, it may be like you lost the fight, or you won the fight, but don't you cry.
So where does that go? Where does that emotion go?
It has to simmer down. But if it
Or
don't
boil
get simmered
over.
down,
Or boil over.
but when it boils over, that's
Because
how it
imagine that
affects.
emotion is like a pot of water on a
Right,
stove.
right.
Okay, we
right,
ain't gonna deal with the water
right,
piece, but the heat's on.
Right. Right, the heat's
So
on.
what happens,
But but it's going back to the misalignment of the fire as well. That this is how, when an individual have this fire desire misappropriated within themselves, it's like peer pressure.
Can
It
I say
connects
that?
and it keeps
And
spreading.
that's when I feel like either
Yes.
village is important,
Yeah, the community.
because to hold you by the fire and walk you through the fire, and or you have to be ready for it yourself as an individual. Like, you were ready for that level of elevation. You were ready for that level of filling in the answers and filling in the blanks. That did not cancel out Christianity, because I too was raised Christian, and I love the game of it, because I feel like Black people are so sovereign and so amazing, and our origins were creators of all of this, that we created the game so we can just show how we undo it at the same time. So that same Bible that Master gave us and said, here's how you're going to implement it and execute it through fear, guilt, shame, and our ancestors said, and then we're also going to write other things. We're going to write truth. We're going to write the indigenous aspects of it. We wrote all of it, really. We
Right.
wrote the entire game to just, but there has to be an opponent, right? There
Right,
has to
well,
be an
you know,
opponent.
that's what
And
to
then-
me that's what the will was.
Absolutely.
When if you studied the indigenous people, I think you will see a lot of things that are in the Bible from my
And we
reading.
come here with heart.
Correct.
We come here with spiritualism.
Correct.
That's who we are. I mean, yeah, Master said you're going to learn this and you're going to be into Christianity, but we are such a prayerful, devoted people.
We brought those fires back with us. You don't think those fires were happening in a time before time on the motherland? Those fires were the very thing that preceded everything. You know, when our ancestors of the cosmos came through this earth, it came as an atomic blast of energy and light and fire to get here. You know what I mean? And then people evolve from, all of this. And, so it's like, we brought the fire. We take the fire everywhere we go. It's just what is the intention of your fire?
Right.
But it goes back to earlier when I mentioned intentions.
You did?
I mentioned
did.
intentions. So if the tensions are once again misaligned, it really catches in a negative way.
And that's with the voodoo, the witchcraft.
Right. It's misaligned in a negative way. Whether it's, if we talk about alcohol, if we talking about drug addicts, it's misaligned. So normally you don't see a drug addict hanging with somebody that's not an addict.
But
You
then
know,
it
it
can.
catches. But that non-addict can catch a fire with it, this out of the curiosity, or trying to find that moment of peace in whatever that drug.
It can go either way, because
It can go either way.
It can go either
It
way.
can go
The
either
person
way.
who doesn't could,
It can go in any way. And that's how I'm looking at this fire. As we talked about the natural realm, that when we think of a fire, it's all destroying trees. Everybody got to run out of the house. They always show it as a bad tension. And granted, I ain't telling nobody to go run through the fire, but
But there
it's
are other
possible.
fires.
But it's
that's
possible.
fires. That's possible.
There's people that walk on coal.
Yes.
Yes. People that cook their food
They dance
that
in
way.
it.
I tell you, for those that do, I think about
Goals.
the mindset.
Goals.
The
Right, you gotta
mindset
be
that they have
completely.
in order to
But
do
you know
that.
what? We'll
Yeah.
talk about the initiations, because
Yes.
after you're done with this one, he has another book called Of Water and Spirit. And I was just conversing with the brother about it today, and I said those initiations that he took in them, the initiations were to not only because we already identify with the physical aspect of ourselves. The initiations take you through to recognize how you are otherworldly as well.
Okay.
And that all of that is possible. It takes you beyond the mind. We would call it here, I think, psychosis. When people enter into a state of psychosis, they walk so close to the edge of snapping their mind that when they come back, there is an awakening. There is a renewal. The sad thing about that is, and I've seen it in youth, once again, in addiction and in recovery, is sometimes they don't have anybody to stabilize them when they come back.
To help
So
deconstruct them.
You need to know that it's okay what you went through. Tell me about it. And you listen and you guide them on each piece, and you celebrate when you hear that that's a celebration point. That's an acknowledgement point. That was a growthing point. That was an initiation. You made it. You did it. Okay, wait a minute. That part, let's work that, that kink out. Enough youth don't have places to, and they're experiencing this over and over again until Source finally says, baby, let me take you home. You know what I mean? Let's let you return, because you're just not getting it.
But we're talking about a person that's not handling it as an individual, because we look at pain and hurt as a shameful thing. Like sometimes we
People
think
don't want to
that-
face
yeah,
it.
we
Not so
don't-
much a
yeah,
shame.
we don't.
If I gotta look at yours, I gotta look
but
at
you
mine.
know, sometimes some things we do, we say, "Oh, that's a shameful thing." You keep that to yourself. So that means you got to boil all
Suffer in
this.
silence.
You got to suffer in silence. So that's when the community help. But you know, like I say, having a community that we've gotten away from the indigenous people. Their communities have love and
I always
caring.
say village. I say
and
village
sin-
versus
yes.
community.
Yes,
Because not that
yes,
community
yes,
can't hold
yes.
the village. We did the best we could with
Yes.
community coming from village. Village is different. Village,
Yes.
there is no secrets. There is no, this is my problem. I got to deal with this. All is welcome. You know,
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
You know, I'm when I say community, I'm not taking
No,
away from village.
no,
I
I
kind of
get you.
parallel
I
them
just-
as
yeah.
being kind of like the same thing. So
No,
But
I
this is
get it.
good
I
because
get it. I
as you're
get it.
speaking, there's people out here
that
that
don't
are,
know, and there is
and
a
their
distinction.
understanding is so
Right,
great
right.
that we're having this.
and you know we're pretty much learning this together. You
How
know,
about
it's
that?
learning
That's
this
what a village
together.
does.
Yes.
We learn together.
Yeah, so you know that fire. When I say getting out of control, we mentioned the consumerism. You know, in the Bible they may call it vanity. That all is vanity, and consumerism. Pretty much, it all decays as soon as you buy it.
Well, there's
Whatever
also
it is,
another kind
yes.
of fire, which is that passion that you have. So I mean,
Got it.
capitalism, yeah, but there's so many aspects of fire, and I know that for me personally, that passion is so important to how you move in life, what your intention is. You know, right now you have a passion to learn and understand. That's powerful, brother.
Yeah,
Like
so
the fire beneath your feet.
what would you what would you recommend? Because you often hear this that whatever happiness, you have to find your passion. Is that in certain stages? It is just automatically innate in you, or
I
is
think-
something that the village or the community helps you recognize that, like, I have children, and though they are adults, you know, I find myself, you still have to kind of mentor that I might have seen some things they haven't seen and remind me of my mother and father. And my father has passed, but some things that they have said that, you know, you hear your parents say, "Yeah, I've always told you it was like that. It just took you a while to catch up." And sometimes that catching up goes for not having an active listening ear to the loved ones in the village community, but especially parents. You know, majority of our parents love their children unconditionally, whether they're up here or whether they're down,
Right.
going through
Well,
a downful
I will
moment.
say that if you're in
finding
Gainesville,
that passion, yes,
if you're in Gainesville, you know, the community fire. That's where you get, I mean, the community fires that we have, it's young, old, it's everybody. We have times where the kids get to talk about, you know, because Anunaku will ask them something like, what are you confident about? Or what is this or what is that? And then they're silent a lot of times. And then it's like,
And then Jahmie will come in and she'll pose it in another way, and then they'll
Right.
say, okay, I can answer that one. You know, that one felt a little lighter, you know?
Yeah,
'Cause that's auntie.
So
that's the
there's
village
an
auntie.
interesting correlation between the youth and of those
and
that are
adults
kind of
too.
adults.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
we got adults who like,
Don't ask me. But it's like
Right.
those questions.
we're
will
not
never
used to having
being
this village.
asked. Yeah. Or,
Right.
You know, and I always thought growing up that church would do that for you. I mean, I grew up Catholic, so it was like stand up, sit down. They're not doing it. We go,
Ain't too many sisters Catholics
I know. Well,
Here's one.
that I know of. You know, I may
whole
be
hearted
wrong.
I'm
sister.
recovering.
Yeah, she comes by the fire.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just, you know, we are not used to sharing our feelings. And like you talked about, keep it
sharing
in,
our
don't cry, da,
feelings.
da, da. But it's
Yes.
got to go somewhere. And guess
That
what?
mantra.
It will
It does.
burn a fire in you.
It'll
and
put
will
out
hurt
your
you.
fire.
It will hurt you.
Yeah.
You know,
It does a lot of things.
What a concern with that fire, well, like I say, when it's misaligned is when it spreads.
Yeah.
And messes up the community, the village, the
Yeah,
nation,
it's like
the
a math
city,
with a
the
child.
county,
Well,
the
Elder
classroom, or whatever. It can mess it up if it's get out of control.
Elder
So,
Malidoma has a quote that says a child will either, if he can't feel the warmth from the village, he'll burn it down.
Say it. That's
if the
right.
fire, you know, if he can't feel the warmth, that same fire
can't feel the love, huh?
can't feel the warmth,
He will burn it
he will
down.
burn it down. That's a quote, you know.
Gotta feel the love.
Look at the communities that have burned.
Gotta feel the
United
love.
States.
May I, you had a question about the disconnect. spirituality and the disconnection? That was that one of the questions that you asked?
Yep, that was the first one.
I'd like to get
I
back to that.
I think that's pretty much the disconnect from our spiritual foundation.
Mm-hmm.
That was a kind of the topic of this.
That was.
You were
That's
saying
why I
what
was the topic of
I was
this.
ready
Yes.
for you.
So
Go ahead and add it.
I would
Go ahead and add
like
what
to
you want
just
to say.
go back to that because it's going to tie in. I think what has disconnected us from. I'm sorry, I was trying to read it. What is it? Spiritual.
From your spiritual foundation.
Oh, you want to?
From your
It's
spiritual
yes.
foundation.
Yes,
A lot
what
of-
has disconnected us from our spiritual foundation? So
I'm a firm
we
believer.
talked about the fire because it's like
I'd like to
I
answer
want
that question as well.
I want to say that the fire for me is that it starts with him with every individual. I don't care if they was black, white, Puerto Rican,
Well, why
whatever
don't
it
you
is.
answer the question first?
Right. Well, that is my
your-
way.
okay.
That's why I came up with the fire has to be dealt within first by every individual. And this book here talked about indigenous ways, but it gave a way for the Western culture to have a self
He always
healing.
compares. Yeah,
He
doesn't
compares
like-
the
yes, he
two.
does, 'cause it
And I thought
makes-
that was just so deep. I'm like, this is a solution to the love and hate that we see. It's like we're here now and you picking two candidates, which I don't care to mention them, but people get behind those heroes and they trying to emulate these things or
That's
whatever
part
the
of
case may be.
disconnection.
That's part of the disconnection. There you go. That's part of it. That's part of it. Not looking out and not within really starts that disconnection. So we're kind of answering this on the platform, just like I kind of wanted to lead into.
I got a bunch of things
Yes.
I'd like to share.
What?
With that one.
Well, go ahead and
Anunaku,
finish
I would just
love
like
what you wanted to say about
The
it.
one that's nearest and dearest to my heart is
Okay.
this being disconnected from our family. I think family is the solidest foundation of a unit of everything. I think nature is reflecting it to us, what it should look like. I think all the elements represent, how they move together, how they flow together. To me is the perfect family. And that's why in a lot of indigenous cultures, we go into that. Grandmother is the moon, grandfather is the sun, mother is earth, the directions are aunts and uncles and we relate to everything as brother and sister and kindred. Because as spiritual beings, as spirit beings, we were once all that. We
Right.
once had, and that's why in indigenous cultures, people think it's crazy, because I have a lot of altars and I have different things on my altars. And the reason why is because my ancestors can come through anything they choose to. My playlists now play music that I can hear them speaking and we just laugh. Like there's nothing that spirit can't become. And as spirit beings, and we come from that, I feel like the biggest disconnect has been from the family. The family being separated, the family, breaking off into other different pieces and, which is beautiful though. That doesn't mean we have to separate.
That's gonna be a beautiful thing that we can address. Family, because I heard you say
That's huge.
family resembles nature.
Yeah,
I thought I heard that.
absolutely.
Family correlates to nature. So we're gonna have to
But in
have
this
to come back on
conversation,
that.
what
Yeah,
she just said
yes.
is pivotal.
It's pivotal. Yes,
It's so important.
It's one of the ways of the disconnect that we.
It's
right.
You know what? We maybe should do a poll to ask this question. I think it would be good to get a lot of feedback because the one thing that has worked against us is the separation of the family unit, and they and the plan for that has been devised. But once again, the level of mastery, I feel like we created to undo to show exactly how we reconstruct and we re-sew and we re-knit and we re-bead and we re-seed and we build and we do all the things that each of us are here to do that is innate in us. And sister was saying something about learning and critical thinking. I have to go into the intuition piece with that. I don't think it's all of one or another, but our people didn't have, they didn't have anything they didn't have Google, they didn't have books. Those things came later. What they had was their innate abilities to recognize there's something greater than me, Niashe Kankifa Barashe, a spiritual force I cannot see. In Yoruba is guiding me, is speaking to me, is showing me something. And now what I need to do is pay attention. And then I guess then critical thinking would come in. You know what I mean? Because you got to use the heart mind, not just one or the other, but like you with the water and the fire. Let's have a sacred marriage. You know what I mean? Beautiful, because where there might be too much fire, what again I love about astrology is like, think about it. I don't know if you know where your moon is placed. You know what I mean? But I'm
in the sky.
grandmother. I personally can relate. Like I'm a fire astrology.
Yes.
My sun is fire,
Okay.
but my moon is water. Give thanks. Give thanks. You know what I'm saying? Because
break down, because you did ask me did I know where the moon? And my question was in the sky. So break that down a little bit for me as well as the people that may be watching.
Well,
the
if
show.
you can do your birth chart, or you can have your birth
Yes.
chart done, which shows all the placements of your astrological signs, your star alignments,
Okay.
your alignment with the celestial bodies, which are also kin, of which we come from. So as we came to choose, and I don't mean to digress, but this is going to go, but we're coming back. When we chose what we were going to do at creation before we came into this bodies, into this avatar, to enter into this dimension, to do our thing, you know, I think we did specific alignments for our missions that would support us.
Okay.
So every planet in the universe is also aligned with, I feel like the organs, because there's nine.
I feel like
yeah,
it's
I feel like
yeah.
it's, I always equate
The
it to
Divine
organ.
Nine. Is that what
Yeah, you know.
what's the sorority
but
name?
there's
The Divine Nine?
But there's so many.
Is that where they get that from?
I don't know.
That probably possibility.
You're
Yeah,
giving
the
it to me for the
Divine
first
Nine.
time.
I've heard it.
Well,
I think
is
is that the Capitals?
I don't know.
I don't know.
so the divine.
I've heard it in the sorority or fraternity circles.
Okay. So
Yes.
all of it is aligned. So, you know, it's good to know your charts and placements because it's tied into a lot of the beliefs. It's tied into the Neteru. It's tied into the Orisha. It's tied into a lot of the foundational indigenous ancient wisdoms. You know what I mean? Elder would definitely testify of that. I know it. So it's good to know these things so that you can know thyself. And once again, it comes back to we're all interconnected and related. We're all family.
Okay.
So it's like knowing your great grandmother and grandfather.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like it's just digging and taking that excavation, that archaeological dig. You know what I mean? You can do it at ancestral.com. You can do it through an Ifa, reading divination. There's so many ways to tap in to find out. But it's about knowing thyself, and you can't do that
Know
without
thyself.
that family unit intact. There, hence, that
Exactly.
is your spirit.
So that burning desire that we have, that we have to keep
Absolutely.
misaligned,
322.
it's helpful to have family and to be an effective community.
so
And
important.
if without
yes,
it, without
without
that
it,
connection,
right.
that's where all this other list of stuff, because if I'm not connected to my family, okay, meaning that can look like biological or not, but just if I'm not connected in a village, that leaves gaps. That leaves opening for deception, misinformation, indoctrination, miseducation. I'm just saying. She's
You telling the
correct
truth
with-
over there.
she
You
is-
telling
no,
the truth.
No, that's the family. That's what they- and that's the
opens
first
it
thing
all
they
up.
did with us. Remember that?
Right,
They
right.
separated us.
Right. Yeah, it goes
Because
deep.
even if they say that there was slavery in Africa, what people did is tribe against tribe. They took, people in as servants to work with them, but they never separated the family.
Exactly.
They had room for the family. They fed the family, but
Yep.
it's like now you're a part of our tribe. You might have to come under
Exactly.
submission,
Yep.
and do the things that we don't
We're not
necessarily want to do.
separating y'all.
We will never. And I've seen brothers I've literally seen nooses around brothers' necks whose families in real time in this moment were broken, and they carry still the
Okay.
shame and guilt of a failure because, and I'm like, brother, take that off. I know that that's not who you are. It's a design, because if you could have your family, you would have your family.
Like I say,
Miseducation.
but that's a miseducation. So that's miseducation. It's answering the question of the disconnect.
But that's the misalignment.
Yes,
That's-
that's the misalignment.
If you don't have
All
family,
these things happening. Yes,
which means knowledge of self,
right.
then
That's that.
of course we don't have a foundation. Is a solid
Right.
is a solid ground. It's
Right.
a solid state of mind and being.
Right. So, and ending the topic on fire, when it festers out of control, it's just like nature is saying, maybe that's why God has to send us so many hurricanes, that He got to give us a whole hurricane season, because small, I don't remember them been telling us that come June 1 on to November that you have a hurricane season. But it makes sense how
And
the
those
nature
currents
is.
come from Africa. just so
Right,
you know.
In
right.
this season, they're holding the power of love.
Right.
It's got to blow through.
Right. I mean, it has also what's bringing us to the next topic that I want to convey, which is we mentioned the water.
Yeah,
So when the fire is raging,
we can call.
what do we look for the water to do?
Well, we can hope
To-
that the
to
water
bring
can put out
stability.
that fire, because sometimes it takes a lot of water.
It
Sometimes you
does.
just gotta let the fire burn and do what it's gonna do too, because you gotta respect what it's doing and that it does have its destiny and its purpose too. So I'm not gonna talk about the water to put out the fire.
Right.
Not that fire.
What you know?
Sometimes there's rain falling and it still doesn't take out. the
Yes.
fire.
Goodness.
But
So-
at the end of the day, as much as scary it may look, it does bring a sense of warmth.
Absolutely.
A sense of
Absolutely.
cuddling.
Fire is what fire is. Listen, here's the
Yeah,
beauty of it.
a sense of romantic vibes
candlelight.
can happen.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Bring the romance back. I got
Yeah,
A
bring the
brother friend and I were
romance
sitting
back.
by the fire with his
It's
son.
all that. So
My brother friend and I were sitting by the fire with his son, and he said, "Be careful. It's hot. It'll burn you. You know, you'll get burned. You know." And I said, "Well, fire is hot." I saying fire is only being what it's supposed to be. It's not intentional to burn you.
Correct.
I say, so no, fire is just being fire respected. I never wanted any children to fear the fire. The fire, and that's village. The fire is Johnny's not a problem child. Johnny needs a little understanding. Who can sit with Johnny? Who gets Johnny?
that burning desire is something else. That's like me seeing Rihanna walking across. That's gonna be a burning desire.
Wow. Y'all see how he like, wow. That's called stream of
Yeah, you know, that's what fire is. So when a fire is raging, you know, water is used to bring that stability. That's what they use when the fire is just taking over a bunch of lands. They bring that water in order to bring things back to stable, back to stability. So let's talk about water now.
Excuse me. The water in the Dagara has been described by Elder.
When you say the Dagara, you're talking about
in the tribe, the tradition, the way.
And the tradition. We talking about the will still.
The will is part of that. Yes.
Okay.
The Dagara tribe.
Yeah. So the water, as was explained, brought reconciliation, peace, and cleansing. And it's interesting. I was probably the least drawn to the water piece of the wheel because I often found myself not struggling with my emotions, but I wasn't a strong water drinker. I did, do a lot of things to dehydrate, more so than not. And it wasn't to avoid and evade my emotional body, but then it could have been. But water, as of late, after doing ritual with Elder and recognizing the initiation that they did with water was very profound, and recognizing that we come from water, one of the biggest experiences I had.
When you say come for water, how you thought? Because both of y'all mothers, and that little seed y'all carry at one point was carried in water. That's how powerful water is.
Well, water is a world within the world. It's another world.
Yeah.
And it is a very sacred place. So even being in the womb, because there's a womb of the universe, there's a womb of creation. Mother Earth has a womb. And so in each of them hold water in their own way. Some people say there's water in the fire. I have brothers that look at that when the embers are just kind of rolling, when all the fire's gone and it's just the embers that are on fire. Right. You look at it, it's moving like water. Right. And I've heard a lot of brothers that say that there's water in the fire. You mentioned the reconciliation, and from some terms from the book came the word brings balance, came about renewal. It talked about rebirth. And when we want a calming moment, a lot of us love to go on the beach. I think ideally if we said to say, well, hey, where could you get your last days to chill at? Everybody like, man, I just love to wake up on the beach every day because it brings that peace, that quietness, and that calmness, whether you a beach lover or just love the Great Lakes. I feel it while we got this blue carpet in our feet.
All the waterfalls.
I'm feeling it.
Hey, my man Nehemiah that put the studio together, that was his thought.
I felt it.
That was he mentioned that when I asked him about
all the colors are very.
What you doing here? He had it. Yeah. So that's just a line. So the deep blue. I thought about the Gators. That's bad. I thought about the Flight Florida Gators.
I didn't think about them at all.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about football season already.
Get you out by some elements more.
But when it comes to the water, I want to compare it with the West again. And it's not that I want to get back into no religion. So that's not, I don't want to spend a lot of time on that part. But some of the practices that the indigenous people use with water, with the rebirth and the reconnection that we just mentioned, how y'all correlate that
you mean like baptism?
with baptism? which is
That's what it is.
The Father, the state. But it started here that you baptize in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. So any comment on that?
You would like to go?
No.
Okay. Well, I remember thinking once again, because Christianity did come from the colonizers, and I think that there was a lot of things that they let us keep, and then things that they took and used because they saw the power in it, and then they gave it in pieces and parts.
Right.
And so when I think of baptism, which I'm not anti, because it did what it was supposed to do once again because of my intention, the vessel that I hold. And especially as a child, I'm not really knowing, but my ancestors know. And the spirits of the water know. So you may take me and throw me back real quick and bring me back up and say, you're new. But what I've learned since then is that in the culture and traditions of the Dagara people, through the initiations that they went through, they hold you under the water till you almost leave the earth plane to recognize and remember that you come from water, and it's not something to fear, even though the trauma of the ships and being, and being thrown overboard, and because it was too heavy on the ships, or maybe just saying I'd rather put my medicine in the water than to have them try to break my spirit, like knowing that we don't die. You know what I'm saying? Wait, let me finish. And then, and recognizing that aspect of that water is that powerful, and we have to get beyond fearing it, which is justified and understandable. But also, too, what I've recognized as of late, I had an experience at the Springs, and I had invited you, is a sister friend of mine who was a guide to take me in the water, gave me a face mask that goes around the entire face. There's no apparatus of separation of a goggle and something you got to put in your mouth and figure it out. It just literally fits on your face like that movie, The Mask.
Right.
And it was interesting because I've never feared the water. I would swim in the ocean and I would go into the big waves because I was like, mama, ancestors, cleanse me, take me. But I could feel on this level something was being shaken inside of me. Something was like, oh God, what are we about to do? What's about to happen? I was like, it's okay, it's okay. And I went and I immersed in the water, and I was going like this, and I was like, calm down, calm down. I had to talk to my inner self, and what I realized is as I could breathe underwater, I was having a true baptism. I was having a real rebirth, and all my mind snapped and said, we used to do this, we used to do this, we can do this, we can do this, we used to do this, we used to do this. But wait, here's the big kick, and I'm done. The beauty of it is the only reason people are afraid of the water is because of fear of drowning. So when I realized that I could breathe in the water, I was like, I can stay down here as long as I want. What is there to fear?
Right. Well, the immersion does have some benefits.
And a lot of information came through the water when I broke through that experience.
The
water in me activated with the water in that.
But let's talk about that drowning. If anybody ever been submerged past the normal time, when you come up, you're like,
like a baby taking the first breath.
It's like that breath that you're looking for. So let's just think about the baptism for the way the indigenous, as well as those that do be baptized in the religion. They're feeling about all the all the trauma that's buried, and it's a refreshment.
Well, the first experience, it's a refreshment. As Anunaku was speaking about hers at the Springs, is mine was the rebirthing for me was with shaman Malidoma. When we did the water ritual. Because I love water. I've always been connected to water. I swim, love it, love. Right. I've always had to be near water. It always ended up that I lived near it somehow, some way. But when I went through this ritual, it was like, oh yeah. It was not a big deal. It was cold. That was the only thing. The water was cold.
Chilled my body, but not my soul.
It was exactly.
Wake you up a little bit,
but being there, I could have been down there. I was fine, So, but it's the birthing, the baptism part for me. It made me think about when I was Catholic, then I went to Christianity.
Right.
I had my son who was maybe a year old. I was going to a Christian church, and I wanted to have him baptized there. And the pastor told me, no, we can't baptize him. We'll baptize him in the back room over here.
Yeah, it's kind of like those jokes when they say, "What dog?"
But it was only because I wasn't married.
Yeah, it'd be like, dog, like how many times you got to keep getting baptized? You know, I've heard that too, but it's like as often as needed is my opinion of it.
Well, you can take a bath every day.
Yeah,
You don't take a shower.
What is not only your intention, but
got
what's
you.
your understanding?
I got you.
What is your understanding of what baptism really is?
Back to
but
that
if you notice how a lot
intention
of the
again.
pictures that you see of us doing those types of ceremonies in all white, we've been doing that. That is indigenous.
That's
to
indigenous.
us.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
That's why we still know what to do.
It's not.
That's why we still know what to do.
It's nice that you brought.
It's
It's nice that you brought that up.
You know what I mean? I'm going to do what I do. We take it to the river. We take it to the springs. We take it to our bathtubs.
Right.
We
Right.
baptize ourselves on a daily basis.
Right.
Because ritual is our inheritance. It's innate.
Well, since you mentioned rituals, even though I was trying to stay away from it, I'm just gonna recall it. And if you guys have any,
You can call it a different word.
you
Ritual,
can
ceremony, it's all the same thing.
But in the book, it mentioned there was a ritual of libation.
Pouring of
Share
liquids,
share with us. You know, I had went to Ghana and they use water, and some people use even a bottle of liquor, alcohol.
Yeah, no,
it's
the
for the
pouring out of
homies,
So
like they
liquids.
say.
the
Yeah.
libation. So you know, you got any quick summation of that?
I think,
Besides just the pouring of a small liquid of water to justify the
Acknowledgement.
same thing as
it's an
emerging
honoring.
with a full bath.
I
Yes.
would just from my own contemplative, it might not resonate with everything, but I think just I'm gonna say that I feel once again as ancestors can take on any form, and Mother Earth once again, we know that a lot of where we come from is in the earth, under the earth. There's a whole thing happening there. It's not just all in the sky, in the cosmos. And I think that every time we pour a drop, we're honoring an ancestor because they usually call out names, or we'll have you call out names. So it's a hydration, it's a thirst. What if ancestors are thirsty? In our altars, we put water at our altars, not only just to make sure that they have what they need, but it's also communication. To make sure that communication's clear, so fresh water is also in some cultures.
What would you
representative of that.
answer? Because when you saying ancestors, being that we are over here where we stay at in America, when you say ancestors, some think, hey, you praying to the dead. What's the proper way to answer that question to refute that?
Praying to the dead or honoring?
Honoring the dead,
The
or you're not
DNA
supposed to reverence the dead, or
that lives
that's
within us.
ancestors. Yes, okay.
Yeah, we're honoring them. We're
Honoring,
their
okay.
presence in our lives, their direction that they provide for us, the sacrifices that they have given.
It's like
Yes.
the DNA of our children that come through us.
I thought it was just so important for that to be explained.
Yeah.
I just thought that it needed to
is.
kind of slide in there a little
it
bit.
is.
And if you look at other cultures
Yes.
too, when you walk into an Asian restaurant or somewhere, you'll always see a little area where they honor them. We don't ask them that, but
What I have to say
Yeah.
though is what's interesting, if I may, is to your point, is I have to laugh because I say that the ancestors are alive and we're dead, because we're in a continual experience of dying and death to rebirth ourselves, to come into new layers and levels of our spiritualized matter. And they already are spirit. They have crystallized, they have arrived. And so I always do a joke because even in, they say that, contracts between the living and the dead. And I laugh and I always say, you're the living to me, we're the ones that are
Right.
dead,
Right.
and it's just a joke, but I feel that so strong because ancestors are so real and so working behind the scenes, being the eyes and the hands and things that we can't see, they can give us that intuitive, that hit.
Right.
You know what I
Well,
mean?
that's the one way when I think of ancestral. If you're gonna have that dialect or that talk, it's like they've already been here, and if I believe that spirit resides still, that especially when it comes to a close person like my mother or father, the connection that I would have, I would think that I still, as you say, honor and reverence them, that still could be some way to communicate eventually
Absolutely.
from them to be in that different world than when people believe that we going to a different place.
Altars do that, though.
That-
Altars
yes.
usher in the other world,
Yes.
where you can let them know that I'm still thinking about you. Here's your cigarettes.
Yes.
Here's your liquor. Here's your this. Here's your that. You know, and we keep the candles lit to always
Okay.
let them know it's like keeping a porch light on. You know, we burn incense for sweet smells. You know what I
Right,
mean? We
right,
keep live
right.
plants and things around them to keep life
Right.
force and things, you know, generated around our ancestors. So, you know, it's really all beautiful.
And it's not
real.
just our DNA. I mean, trees, the birds.
I was getting ready to say that too. Thank you. I was gonna say, we have
It's all our
ancestors that created
ancestors.
this.
Yes.
You know, Jesus is an ancestor. Now, that's what I've been talking about in the church, because I'm like, Jesus is an ancestor. We come from that lineage. We come from that same royal lineage of people who came from the Most High, you know, in form and took on form, in spirit, took on form with a destiny and a purpose to bring in a new message, to usher in a new era, to revolutionize something that has not been, or to bring order where things were out of order. So peace and blessings upon Yeshua, because that is an ancestor of mine. But how about this? I sit in church and I listen to people glorify that ancestor, which is fine. I've learned to let down that judgment. But what I recognize is, I had said it out loud. I said, but you have ancestors that were whipped and beaten too, from that 2,000 years to probably 60, 70 years ago. Can they get some acknowledgement? They'd like to be recognized too. They walk with us. So it's all
when we talking
kinda
about
like,
judgmental, like obviously there's a disconnect going on in the atmosphere now, where some say, you know, hey, I don't have to go through Jesus to get to God.
no, you don't.
There's some that say,
don't. If you
hey,
want to, you can.
I may reject that, but I may reject the whole principle. You know, there's some. So, but if they believe in God, so I wanted to say that the disconnect from our, I mean, it's a true fact. That's what you hear, and I'm just being real.
No,
I'm just being real. That is out there now more than so. They even talking about bringing, let's just say, the Ten Commandments back to school. So, you know, that's, they even talking about bringing the Ten Commandments back in the school.
That might help.
Repeat them. Yeah,
They need the faces of the truth teller day.
Yeah. But I'm
Ten
just saying,
Commandments is
though,
real clear.
so judgment goes across the board. So it just goes across the board. So just getting back to how I want to just wrap this up with the disconnect from our spiritual foundation. You know, we mentioned the family. I mentioned the burning desire, and you know, you mentioned
She gets to still
religion.
Yes,
I
there's
really believe greed, the war on poverty, lack of self-trust.
There's a
claiming
whole
America as our
lot.
home. It's a lot of things.
It's a lot of things.
It's a lot of
But I'm gonna leave it with the two things that people could remember:
family,
Absolutely.
and it starts right here. I'm gonna leave it like that. So
because without family, all the other shiggity gets in the way.
right. So I'm gonna wrap this up. And I want to leave with a quote that I'm paraphrasing from the book we have here. I'm gonna paraphrase this to leave this.
You want me to hold the book
sum
up
it up
so they can see?
Oh yeah,
while
you're more than welcome. And if you
I'll
want to hold the
wheel
wheel up, but I want to end this session with reading this. It says, "We all have the same spirit and living in the same house, Earth." I end this session today. Thank you for spending us a moment. And as always, I'm going to thank my partner, Nehemiah, for help making this easy. Peace out. You ever need it, call Dynasty Solutions so he can edit your videos. Peace.
Want to elevate your brand with professional audio and video? At the Gainesville Podcast Studio, we make podcasting easy. Our fully equipped studio and expert engineers handle everything from recording to editing to upload. It is a complete done-for-you podcasting solution. Book your session today and let your voice be heard. Visit GainesvillePodcastStudio.com today to book your session.